Hello, guys, and welcome to the Vertex Project Podcast. And today we have James and Nick. You guys.
Hey guys, hope you're well.
Now, you guys haven't actually met James yet. We are going to do a podcast with him. Ben is going to do a podcast with James to give him where a space where he can talk about his story. So you can learn a bit more about him. But what we are going to start is a psychology series where we're going to talk about basically the psychological barriers that come with trading that's not really addressed. And the biggest thing that we're going to talk about today is losses. And for some reason, losses seems to be like a taboo sort of subject to talk about in the industry. And I don't know why. And if you haven't seen the video on YouTube, there's a video that is literally called losses on our channel where you can actually look at my personal losses and how to sort of deal with it. But we're going to talk about our own personal experiences from James and Nick and myself to hopefully show you guys, losses will happen regardless. It doesn't matter what strategy you're using, you will always have a loss. But how people deal with it is very different, and I think our approaches are very different as well. Well, it's very, very different actually, I would say. But I guess we'll start off with James. James, if you give like a little bit of background, just to start off. Obviously, we're going to do an interview anyway with you, and just talk about your experience with losses, how you dealt with it, I'll ask you questions if there's anything that I feel you can talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think you're right, mate. With there's a weird thing about talking about your losses in trading. And to be honest, I think it all comes from social media. Obviously, I know us three all came from, seeing trading on social media and trying to get involved with it. The thing is with signals companies, they don't really show anything. So when you do start trading yourself and you take a loss, you instantly think, hang on, am I doing something wrong? Like, why is this so different to what I'm seeing, like all these people that I look up to posting? And I think it's something that as time goes on, you slowly start to realise that loss is actually a massive part of the journey. Not only realising that they're going to happen, you can't change that. To realise that actually it's not a bad thing, because nobody's got 100% win rate. If there's someone out there listening that does, let us know, because you've got some magic. But yeah, I think it's really important to realise that losses they're a part of the journey, they're a part of your life as a trader. But yeah, so I started getting into, I won't talk too much because I know we're going to do another video. I basically started trading from signals. I blew 2 accounts in 2 months. I think it's about £1,000, something like that. I deposited again, and then quickly realised that the guys I was following didn't even know what they were doing. I started to learn myself and started to invest in some education. And now around three and a half years later, I think, from literally being a signal client to now being a part of Vertex with Tanz, Ben and Nick.
You missed out the fact that we did signals together.
We did, yeah, so around halfway through that journey. Once, I'd actually learned myself and I was getting some consistency. I started thinking to myself, wow, if these other guys, are providing the signals and they're making people lose money, I'd really like to be a part of a group or a system that was actually helping people. I can't remember how exactly I met you, Tanz. It was through someone else.
Yes.
But I think we very quickly realised that we were on the same page with our journey. Really, you were ahead of me at this point. But yeah, we joined up with another group and did that. And I did quite enjoy that for a while.
You were there before me, to be fair.
Yeah, so I was there before you, and then we somehow met you. I don't know how.
Yeah, so it was very random actually the way that we met. We'll discuss that in another video anyway. But the interesting part, which I think if James is happy to talk about, but the interesting part is when I joined to do that. When I joined the signal company, James was actually on I think he took a 3 month or so break. It was like a perfect timing for me to join, to be fair. But yeah, I think James was on a break, and I'll let him explain why. It's very interesting. But yeah, go on.
So as Tanz said, I basically took a break, which might sound weird, but essentially I got to this point where I was working part time, so I cut my hours down a lot. And I got to this point where I've always not really known what I wanted to do. So I didn't go to university, I didn't go to college, I didn't go to uni because I didn't just want to like follow the standard footstep, you know. I got a few jobs, but I was always just a little bit lost in life, like not really knowing what I wanted to do. Really not enjoying getting up and going to like a standard 9 to 5. And I just got to this point where I was making money trading. I was doing better than, you know, a lot of people do when we look at it statistically. But it got to this point where it was like, right, I need to go for this now, because otherwise I am never gonna be able to go full time. And at that point, I realised that I basically needed to cut everything out apart from just myself. Especially as I talked about earlier on social media. I was seeing these guys with their Lambos and their McLarens somehow doing all this stuff, and I quickly realised that a lot of it isn't what it seems.
No.
And for me, my way to I don't know how to word it really. It was just a weird point in my life where it was like all or nothing.
Yeah, strange, yeah, because
what was it, like 4 months, 3 months?
it was, yeah, it felt like that because you weren't even speaking to us really.
No, I literally dropped everything apart from literally sitting there at my laptop at my screen, just constantly backtesting and learning. And I think the funny thing looking at the back of that now is I don't even use what I learned then anymore, really.
No, neither do I. So
no, it's been a crazy journey for sure.
But in terms of losses, so you, obviously I know you faced loads of losses. What actually kept you going? Because obviously when you're learning, you must have obviously taken a ton of losses, right? So
yeah.
Why are you still doing it? Why are you still trading?
I think the fact that I knew from, you know, the end of school that I didn't want to go down that route of having like a normal 9 to 5. So that's always been in the back of my head. And it's actually really funny. The first ever way I knew about trading is I remember this one night I had work the next morning, and I googled how to make money from home. And I know it sounds really stupid and dumb and cliche.
No, we all do that. We all do it.
But I googled, you know, how to make money from home, and I went through like survey websites, and I was like, nah, I don't believe that. And then an Instagram ad came up, and that's the first ever time I saw about trading. But yeah, so I think that in the back of my head, knowing that, you know, this is something that I really want to do. When I started doing technical analysis, I really enjoyed it. And I think the thing that kept me going was the winners, to be honest. So when I started to become consistent for the first ever time, my win rate wasn't good, my risk to reward wasn't amazing. But when I did win a trade, you know, opening your phone to an alert saying TP here, I think every single time that happened, I just thought, you know what, this isn't what it seems cliche wise, but there's definitely something here to build on.
Yeah, I mean, it's because when you think about it, you're literally making money from punching numbers into your phone, and
yeah,
like where else can you get that? And I think people tend to forget is like risk to reward is such a massive thing, and even though you've taken losses, you've still been in the green, I assume. Well, you obviously are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you can take a few losses. I mean, now it's obviously very different. We could take a crazy amount of losses and be happy and be fine, but you know, I think people tend to forget the risk to reward, and the fact is, what you sort of touched upon is that, you know, you are appreciating your winners. I don't think many people do.
No, I think that's so true. I think a lot of people focus too much on their losses than their wins, and obviously you got to learn from your losses. But when you do hit a TP, you need to go over that trade just as much as you do your losses.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the fact, as you said, you've just made money from punching some stuff onto a phone.
Yeah, literally. So in terms of losses, right? So let's talk about losses specifically. Because I know that you've had some mad crashes, and I don't know if you want to discuss it or not, because I know they're a little...
I'm actually really open with numbers and figures, so I'll be completely open. So my first ever, so after I had that 3-month break, during that time I've always been quite a money saving person. So up to that point, I'd saved £20,000, and I essentially put 90% of the money I had in the whole world into
I remember
IC
that.
account.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I can remember the emotion of the first trade. It's quite a while ago now, a few years ago. But I remember putting that money in there and thinking, right, you've got this. You've just spent 3-4 months refining everything. And it was just another. It was like a flip of a switch and yet another part of my journey. Because when you first start with like a decent sized deposit, right? And you put that stop loss in, you put that TP in, and you click market execution, all you can think about is that loss. You're hoping for the win, but at the time, all I could think about was, oh my god, I hope this doesn't lose. And that's the biggest thing that's changed for me now. That doesn't even go through my mind anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think regardless of the deposit size, it is scary when you put your first deposit. I mean, my first deposit of £500, I was scared to place a trade, but I was following signals back then. I'll speak about that later, but I was following signals back then. But that £500, it was very expensive for me at the time, and to be honest, it is a lot of money, and to lose it, it's And I know
I should say that wasn't my first ever deposit. That was
no, it wasn't.
When I was like really going serious.
Yeah, but
I done multiple £500,
yeah.
250s. I probably lost. I'd probably say over 2,500 before I really started to nail it down myself.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, you've taken a crazy amount of losses, but you still you're still carrying on. And I think the thing is, a lot of people would take the losses, right, and that's it. They'll quit. I've seen it happen over the years. I remember, like, the Signal clients that we had, right, the ones that I've actually kept spoken to. I don't know where they are now. Like, they've all left because that experience was so bad. And I guess that sounds bad because it wasn't even us, to be fair, at that point. By the point, because it was after when we left. I started getting messages from old clients, saying this, and then they don't even want to try learning anymore because it's created that fear.
It is. It's like a human thing, isn't it? Like, everyone says money doesn't buy happiness, but at the end of the day, if you're struggling for money, there's a lot of stress. So for me personally, I spent all this time saving up to really give it a good go and give it everything I had, and all of a sudden, it became very real. It's crazy.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk to Nic because he's been quiet for a little while.
I've just been listening.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen or heard Nic's interview, Nic was actually one of our Signal clients. He was actually James. James signed him. So Nic actually experienced obviously losses, but losses that were from signals. I don't know if it was specifically. Actually, it could have been from us. I don't know. But I'll let him speak about. Yeah, there's a lot going on for Nic, to be fair, and I think, again, it's up to you if you want to talk about it or not. But your transition from last year to this year is such a big change in your mindset, and everything has changed for you. Which is why I wanted you on this podcast, because I think your story is quite raw. So if you want to tell us about your experience of taking these losses, how you managed to deal with it. Just to like point out, Nic has these really cringy quotes stuck on his wall. I don't know how much of a difference that made. I mean, some people it does, but yeah, Nic's one's really, really cringy, and he even signs them off. he signs them off. But anyway, Nic, I'll leave it to you. Explain a little bit about how you face these losses from signals to trading yourself. What you did to sort of overcome it.
Yeah, so I'll give you a bit of context for anyone that hasn't watched my interview with Ben. I was a slightly different route to James, I'd say. I went through the whole university process and got out of that, and I actually had a graduate job lined up on some pretty good money. I think it was like a 35k starting for a grad job, which compared to what you get these days is really quite high.
it wasn't really like my passion. I wasn't overly happy being kind of like filtered down that route of education into work, and that's that. Never really sat properly with me, and I was always kind of interested in finance. So I kind of found trading like we all did really, just via Instagram. I think that's where most people find it these days. And you kind of see this idea of like a perfect life, and you're like, okay, well, this has kind of piqued my interest. You take a look. And I went through so many different people trying to learn, different signal providers. I mean, one of them I ended up with you guys, and that's how this all started, which is kind of like a story in itself. But I was kind of like bouncing from person to person, trying to sort of educate myself. And that really wasn't the thing to do at the time. My thought process was like, the more I can learn from, if I can like sort of collect these different people and combine everything, then this will work. But that doesn't really work. And I took various losses from different educators, quite a lot, to be fair, quite a lot of money at a time where I didn't really have much of a backup, because I was going to go into this job and then I was just like, you know what, I don't want to do this. I want to commit myself to trading. So I kind of got rid of that when I wasn't really in a financial position to do so, and just kind of took a bit of a risk and just kind of winged it from there, and here we are. But I lost thousands, to be fair, trying to follow all these different people and just kind of combine everything. And I think, it's difficult, because when you're trying to learn from people, especially if it's the wrong type of education, you can kind of get yourself in this sort of mindset where you think they know better than you. And so throughout this whole period, I'm not going to name people, but I was following you know what I think.
I know.
I was following supposed educators who I thought knew better than me, trusting them over myself, and losing a lot of money doing it. But the thing that kind of kept me going was like my own personal development, because every time they were wrong, if I was right, I was like, okay, in my head I've been correct here, but I've lost money because I followed them.
Was this signals you're talking about, by the way?
I mean,
or
it's
their course?
Signals, they're pretty rubbish course combined with signals. Just all that sort of stuff blended together.
Oh, they did both?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
That's where most of the... because it was an extortionate membership fee plus analysis that was terrible, but I didn't know at the time.
Yeah. How much was it? Can you say? Or?
Yeah, it was like £130 a month. Plus...
Christ, damn.
Yeah, so... And to be fair, people charge more than that. I mean, we've seen it.
Yeah, true. No, yeah, that's true.
Plus, obviously, the losses you're taking on your account following this stuff. So, I blew a few thousand doing that. But then, the whole time this was happening, this was over probably the period of, I don't know, a year and a half, probably.
Yeah, because you stopped talking to me for a while, and I think that's when you went off to... I think that's when you joined this other team to do your own thing.
Yeah, and to be fair, at that time, there were times in there that I kind of thought about giving everything up. Because, it wasn't much fun, because this was over quite a long period of time. You're talking about a year and a half of losing money. Which can hit you.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and it's a lot of kind of mental damage over that period of time, because it's just such a long process of learning. Right. But if you feel like you're getting better yourself, then you just kind of have to stick at it, and just sort of... That's what kept me going, is the knowledge that I was getting better, even though my kind of bank balance wasn't saying that. In my head, I knew I was improving and I was picking up new things. And then, we kind of got into what we do now, a year and a half ago?
A year and a half for you, probably. I think I would say.
Yeah, probably. I think it's just about a year now for me and Tanz.
Yeah, you started pestering us. Yeah. You pestered me and James a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's right.
It took us half a year to...
Yeah. We ignored Nick for a very long time, basically.
Which at the time I completely understood, because all I was to you guys is just a signals client that was losing money. So it didn't really have much of a rep to go with. But we came into this stuff, found some consistency, blocked out all the noise and like the rubbish, because it's very, very easy, especially in the world of social media, to get caught up in other people's sort of fake fantasies.
Definitely,
and that can be difficult. And like I said earlier, if you've got all these voices coming at you at the same time, it's almost impossible to think straight. So I just sort of committed myself to following what I thought was right and what was making progress, which is what we do today. Just focusing on that, blocking out everyone else. I don't care what car you've got, what your kind of perception you're trying to show on Instagram is. It doesn't bother me. Got rid of all of those influences and just focused on this, and then things just slowly started to turn. It took me some time to get kind of completely psychologically sound.
Yeah.
Because that's an interesting point, actually. I guess the fact that when we sort of switched over on the concepts, the analysis was so good, and yet still my psychology wasn't quite there.
No. Do you mind if I say something quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because Nic was obviously practicing this for such a long time, right? I would say that Nic's probably the best analyst out of us three. In my personal opinion, I would say that. But the problem was last year, because Nic was banging out these 1 to 80s and so on, right? 1 to 80 plus. All I remember was that GJ that he did last year. That was huge. But what it was like, I think when me and James started getting into it, we were just taking the trades, right? And then Nic was holding himself back because of the whole psychological issue. Now, was that because of the amount of money you've lost? Like, what was stopping you, do you think?
Yeah, it's that. It's difficult to. I mean, your mind's very powerful. If all it's used to is losing for this long period of time, it's very difficult to sort of bring in some confidence that that's going to change. Then just really making that happen is quite difficult. Even if it's really weird how easy the mind can get these mental blocks. Even though I could see this analysis playing out, when it got to the point of execution, everything was kind of. Everything was very difficult for me. Yeah. It's kind of a difficult one. I think the only way you'll fully understand it is if you're there and it's happened to you. But you just get these kind of like blocks and loss of confidence. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah. It's just loss of confidence.
Because I never really understood. It never really made sense because you had everything. Like, it was literally the point where he would mark out the entry, the stop loss, the TP, but all I remember was our group chat was basically, Nic, why didn't you enter? Nic, why did you not enter this? He would send the trade in, right? So we know that he's obviously pre-planned this, but still wouldn't enter. It didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense to me and James. But
I think that was the only difference between us three, is that the fact that I had been through my stage of entering and losing, and then slowly becoming better. Tanz, I know you'd been trading for longer before. Whereas Nic, I think you sort
he's still
of
fresh, isn't it?
What worked for you before you'd actually gone through the testing stage. I feel like I could be wrong, but I feel like you found smart money. You put your own twist on it, and it worked really quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I know personally, before I did do the big deposit I was talking about before, I was testing with 200 quid for months and months and months. So my psychological, boundaries had, already got past themselves just from that.
Yeah. That's completely correct. And it's probably, I think that sort of period last year was the most frustrated I've ever been in the markets, even more than when I was just losing following people that didn't know what they were doing, because you can do it yourself. It's all in, like, everything's in your brain at that point. And you can analyse everything. Like you said, I'd literally send them analysis in and watch stuff play out. And then I just couldn't understand why I wasn't entering. But it all comes from confidence. And it's confidence is just so big. And it's kind of unique to you. You're the only person that can control your mind.
Exactly.
We're not machines, we're not robots, we're not algorithms. We have to make the decisions ourselves. You can analyse everything, but unless you yourself has that confidence to hit that enter button, it doesn't matter. So it's just you just got to find that confidence within yourself, wherever you've come from or whatever you're doing. If you can see you're making progress and you're happy with what you're doing, just back yourself, because that's what I didn't do for a while. And everyone's timeline's different, but I could be in a pretty sort of different position right now. I could be maybe 6 months ahead in my life if I just had a bit more confidence in myself. So that's kind of like my main point is just if you can see you're making progress and you feel like your edge is working, whatever it may be, just back yourself and just see where it takes you.
I think the main thing for you, Nic, is you're still in that. Well, I wouldn't say you're still fresh, but you at that point you were last year, but you were still in that. You were in that new trading phase, if you know what I mean. Like you're still experimenting, you're still developing as a trader. Like compared to me and James, like without pushing you down at all, but and I hope you don't take it that way. But
No,
like
not
me,
at all. It's just time and experience.
yeah, like me and James have gone through years of losses. Like I took 2 years of losses, and I
think the
couldn't
big thing
afford it.
is, like, for me, I've lost a lot of money and I've also made a lot of money within this, like,
Yeah,
weird time periods. Like, one week I'd lose loads, and then the next week I'd make loads. And that itself just, like, almost, like, I don't know, what's the word, like,
decondition.
yeah,
You just
like,
don't feel it now.
Yeah,
yeah. And I think that, and as I was talking about earlier, for me, I've always had this, like, burning desire to not, like, do a normal job as such. Like, I don't know if it's, like, laziness or what, but I just hate, like, the thought of a normal job. So I think that was, like, the biggest thing for me, always pushed me through.
Yeah.
I think in regards to that, I'm very similar, and I just kind of, I always felt like if I'm going to put in all this work, if I'm going to be here day after day after day, putting in all these hours, I wanted to directly benefit myself.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit selfish, but it's your life. I don't want to put in these 10-hour days to make someone else richer. It's so like cliche, but that's just like how I see it.
no, it
I do
makes
think that is
makes
what
sense.
a lot of sorry, Tanz.
No, go ahead.
I do think that's what I found a lot of successful traders do have in common is that burning desire for, like, I know it's cliche, but like the freedom, you know what I mean? Like, wake up when you want, do what you want. And I've literally always been that way. So when all my mates were talking about university and college, and I was just sat there like, yeah, there's no way I'm comfortable. I couldn't think of anything worse than going through another 4 years of education. And I think I've always been a little bit different in that sense. I don't know about you two.
Well, yeah, you're the only one out of us three who didn't go to uni. I mean, me and Nick went to uni. But for me, it was a little bit different because if I didn't go to uni, I wouldn't actually have the funds because so I trained as a physio and I worked as a physio for a good few years, and my initial deposits all came from physio. Like everything originated from that. So for me, it sort of worked out.
Was that always what you wanted to do? Like, you had a real passion for it as well?
Yeah, so physio was a passion and trading was. I think I did do a video on this actually, but I'll mention it here. But trading was something that came up in my second year, right? And it was something that I saw on Instagram where people were living this lavish lifestyles, and I was so easily enticed. And to be honest, I was young. I was 18, 19. So I'm easily influenced, right? And I saw all these like crazy pictures and cars and things that people were saying from £200 you can make 1k. You can make between 200 and 1k a day. And when I saw that, I fell for that, and I did signals, and what it was that actually made me stay was the fact that I had 2 wins, right? Which was they were both £21. Like that was huge. Like for me, that was.
I do find weird little things stick with you, don't they?
Like I would never forget. It was £21.49, right? I would never forget that. And when I saw that, I was like, it's mental to think you can actually make money from putting numbers in. But obviously, I realised that the signal provider that I had wasn't. She wasn't a signal provider. She was a marketer, and I don't know where the trades were coming from. To be fair, at that point, and I realised I need to put some effort in to actually learn from this. And at this point, it's when I bought my car, my Toyota Yaris, which James and Ben, everyone sort of takes a mick out of. But I don't think I really explained as to why. But that car I had finance, right? At the end of the finance, depending on how you do it, you have a balloon payment at the end. My balloon payment was $3,500, and I just knew that my goal was to trade enough to the point where I can make that deposit and pay that off. And then I did that, and because of that, because I set out, that was my desire, right, to be able to pay off my car. I didn't expect to like buy Bentleys or Mercedes or whatever afterwards, right? I don't know where it went. I don't know why I downgraded from Bentley to Mercedes there, but the reason why I still drive this car, I still have it. The reason being is because that's my first actual accomplishment that came from trading itself. but I suffered 2 full years of losses, right? But I could not afford it. Like, I just couldn't. Like, when I left uni, my salary, my take home after tax and everything was about 1,200. My rent at that time was 500. So can you imagine how much I was actually left with? Not a lot. And obviously being stupid and having, I would say, adult money, you tend to like buy some stupid stuff. Not saying I was a big spender, but I used to like, I was just enjoying myself, to be fair. But I wasn't really being wise with it. But I did have one thing where I would invest a small amount of my salary per month and develop the account. But I was still losing in that process. But the only thing that kept me going was literally that £21.49 wins. It was literally those two trades.
That's amazing.
And my car is a daily reminder. But
I think I was quite lucky in that sense, in that the money that I was risking when I did become profitable and I tested everything for months and months, the money that I made wasn't from work, that I had saved wasn't from work, and it was from other streams, like the group that me and Tanz both used to work for.
Can I just say something? Nic made James money by CPA.
You're welcome, mate. You're welcome.
And I would also like to put out there that I gave him most of it back, right?
Yes, you did do that. Yeah, we have to put that out there. You did give it back. So we're even.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. Like, I think that's half the reason why I developed so quickly, is because this money, to me, it wasn't money that I'd woke up really early in the morning to go and make. It was, I've got to be honest with myself. It was almost free money that I was willing to risk all of it to kickstart my trading career. And I'm very, very lucky.
So you weren't really, I would say, you weren't overly emotionally attached, I would say, in that sense. I mean, you still value money, but...
Obviously, I wasn't going to risk all of it, right?
Yeah.
In the back of my head, I was like, right, if I lose 10%, and then I'm going back to the drawing boards. But even putting 1% on, it was like a lot. And in the back of your head, no matter how confident you are, you don't want to fail.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I thought I'd be completely honest with the fact that, I wasn't really brave putting that on, because it was money that in my head I was already willing to lose, to risk to progress,
See, I didn't make a lot from CPA. Well, James knows that. James knows that, exactly. So yeah, like all the money that I had, like, I physically worked for, so I was so emotionally attached, and that by that point I was already down by like 2 or 3K, I think, probably more than that. So like everything that I put in, I literally couldn't afford it. And on top of that, I obviously had my parents at that time where, they weren't supporting the fact that I was losing. Like, overall for me, like, my goal was to be able to, make myself financially free. I'll explain what I mean about that a bit later on, but the aim was to like support my family, but there was so much emotion that led to it. It was so hard to sort of take in the losses at that time.
Yeah.
But the main thing, I think, the way I sort of see it, and I made a post the other day. It was quite a long post, to be fair, but the way I see financial freedom is very different to how I saw it a few years ago when I started, because the way they show on Instagram is like financial freedom is to make like hundreds of thousands or 10,000s plus a month. But for me personally, like realistically, I don't need that much per month to live off. For me, financial freedom is making enough to be comfortable, be happy, pay off whatever I need to pay off, and basically have that free time. Because at the end of the day, and without sounding too morbid, when we die, when we get buried, it's not going to come with me. So making the amount that you're making, like hundreds of thousands per month, is not, I don't need it in that sense. So I guess my expectations and my ambitions were fairly low, I would say. But I don't know if it's a bad thing or not, especially from a mentor to say that. I don't know about you guys, what you guys think about that.
You know what I said the other week about why I started this? All I wanted was enough for a basic...
Oh yeah, wait. Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, that's all. When I started, this is all I was looking for, was a basic income and the ability to go and see my football team every week. That was it.
Can you say what football team, or?
Yeah, it is Arsenal, so someone's going to comment. But that was it. I didn't have any kind of expectations above that. It's just interesting how different people want different things. You know?
Yeah.
I kind of like
I'm completely with Tanz, to be honest. My vision of financially free 4 years ago was living on some private island, you know, with a Ferrari in the garage, and you go on holiday whenever you want.
Yeah.
But now, to me, it's literally just, you know, never having to worry about paying something, and, you know, doing what you want when you want, and it's literally as simple as those two things to me now.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It would be nice, obviously, to live in an island and so on, but like, you know, I sort of question, like, do I need it? Like, I can do whatever I want at the minute. Like, I could literally do what I want. To be fair, I know you guys are in the same position to be in that sense. But I mean, it depends on what you sort of aim for. But I think if you're starting off, the key thing to take away from this podcast is the fact that you will lose. You will have losing phases. Another thing to remember is that the way the market moves, people need to lose for you to win, and for you to win, for you to win, people need to lose, and for when you lose, people win. It's just the way that the market works. You know, you won't win all the time, but eventually it will pay off. Like if you put your enough time and effort into it, you know, it will pay off, and eventually the losses will go to a point where. Because I think me and James are a little bit better than Nick in that sense, where if we take a loss, we just sort of, well, to be fair, we don't really react to it at this point.
No, you don't.
I think with this strategy, because of the RR, we all know now that you need one big TP a month, and everything else is irrelevant. So, for example, this isn't me showing off or anything, but USD CHF, for example, I made. I think it was like just over like 56% in total.
Damn.
And you got to think, I've now got to lose 56 trades just to break that one trade even.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
yeah.
I think that's why because I was profitable before, right? I think both you guys knew I was.
Yeah.
With what I was using before, and I was quite lucky in the fact that the first strategy that I really started doing myself, you know, I won't name his name, so I don't know if he'll want me to or not, but I joined Educators Group, and I was quite lucky in the fact that, you know, he's not the best in the world, but he's legit, you know, his stuff works. And I was making money, but as soon as Nick started showing us this, and the risk to reward, it's a completely different story. It's almost like having a safeguard on your back the whole time, like, oh, you've just lost 3 trades in a row, 4 trades in a row, but don't worry, because last week you hit a 1 to 20, you know?
Yeah.
There's not many trading strategies that can give you that
No.
support.
And
I think.
Oh, go on, Nick.
No, I was just what you were saying about the market moving and people have to lose for people to win. It's just, you know, 95% of people. I don't know what the exact figure is, but they do lose in this market.
Yeah, brokers say 95. Yeah.
Yeah. So why? What makes you think that you can just kind of turn up, open an account, and just immediately be in that top 5%? It's not easy to be in the top 5% of anything. It's difficult. Especially this market. So you are going to have periods where you do lose, and it does suck. I mean, we've just said it. Like it was painful.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
It did hurt for a long period of time. But you know, everyone's journey is a little bit different, and you may progress quicker, may progress slower, but you won't just turn up and immediately just start bossing the market. It doesn't work like that. My life doesn't work like that. You have to put the work in for this. It's the same for anything. If you need to put in, yeah, go on, man.
I think this is just quickly what we were talking about earlier with social media. Like, if you are struggling, just unfollow a lot of people that are pretending they live this lavish lifestyle. They're not, you know. Deep down, you're going to know if they are or not. You know, I think me and Tanz have worked with groups, and we've seen what they post.
Gosh.
We know the reality behind the scenes, and all I want to say is, like, if anyone's listening, they're really struggling, they think they're doing a lot worse than everyone else. You're really not. Just keep going. Believe in yourself, and just if you do, just do what I did. Focus on yourself for 3-4 months, and just blur everything else out, and then see how you're doing at the end of that.
I mean, Nick left our private group chat with me, James.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, me, James, and Ben. Nick actually left so he can. Well, I guess we don't really speak about trading, but you know when we post our trades, for example, And it was going to a point where Nic was sort of marking out trades, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, by the way, but I'm not going to say too much detail. But we were marking out trades, right, and we were taking it, but there was like trades where we were marked together with Nic, but he would be the one that misses it, and it went to a point where he actually left the group. But I have to admit, you've come back a complete different man.
I said to all of you at the time, it wasn't personal at all.
I took it personally.
I hope no one. Yeah, well, I hope no one took it personally anyway. But it's just, you have to just get that mental reset sometimes. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be, in the sort of position of progress I'm at now.
Mate, literally, Tanz said it earlier, and I completely agree. You are the best technical trader out of all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have literally no doubt in a year you'll be far better than I am.
It's just
I've got nothing wrong with saying that.
It's just that jump from analyst to.
Yeah, well, it's a famous saying, isn't it? You can be the best analyst you want, but if you can't actually trade, there's no point doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously that's where the pain came last year as well. If the analysis is a bit rubbish, I'd have felt brilliant. But
you're better off being a half decent trader with solid psychology behind you than a sick trader but no psychology behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
So essentially, guys, so I'll end the podcast here. That was a very good discussion, to be fair. And as always, we don't actually plan anything. We just start talking and see what happens, to be fair. But I mean, the key thing to take away is the fact that you will lose. There's no doubt about it. You will lose, no matter what anyone says. And eventually, you just need to get to a point where you can detach yourself from the money. And it is hard. It's very easy for us to say at this position, and it may be hard for you guys to believe. And whether you believe it or not, to be honest, I don't really care. But I want you guys to sort of, take the way that we're saying it. It's the fact that eventually it will pay off, and you just need to find your reminder. You need to find what triggers you, because that, as I said, that £21 was the trigger for me that kept reminding me that you can make money from this if you stick at it long enough. Bear in mind that £21 was over leveraged, by the way. So
Do you remember? I was just thinking about that. Do you guys know about that off-white hoodie I have in my wardrobe?
Oh, don't start.
That I never wear. Like, I never wear it. It's just sat there. I don't think I've even ever put it on. But it's exactly the same thing. Sometimes I just look at it and think I bought that with.
That's true. Yeah. Fair play.
With trading income. I mean, it was a stupid purchase. I don't know if it sells for anything now, but that's not the point. It's just that little thing that just keeps you going, whatever it may be. Even if it's as small as like what Tanz just said, or something bigger. Everything just keeps you on track.
So essentially, block out the things that are causing problems, and the best way to do that is, say if you're trading, for example, or demo trading, whatever you're doing, whenever you get like a losing trade, mark out, when you journal, write out what that trade was, obviously, as you normally would, but then write out the psychology element. Write down how you were feeling. Were you happy? Were you sad? Were you angry? Were you stressed, or whatever? What happened that day? What was the weather like? Like really small things like that. Try to find out what is your optimum trading environment. What do you say?
Yeah. Mindset, I'd say.
Yeah, find your optimum, and then this is what that's going to be your only time that you're going to trade, when you're at that point. Because what you need to realize is there's so much more to trading than actually trading. Trading is only 10% of trading. The rest of it is psychology, and being able to understand that you will lose and accepting that is the first step to progression. Because if you can't accept the fact you're losing, you're going to be crying about every single loss that you've taken, and then you're going to miss several opportunities just flying past you, even though you're sitting right in front of the screen. And sometimes it might cloud your judgment. So essentially, write down the psychological aspects when you take losses. Explain how you were, and what you should do is basically look back at it and then remind yourself, what your peak performance criteria is for you, and then go from there. But yeah, I mean, I hope this podcast was useful. I mean, we're going to start a series where we're going to talk about more psychology, because we've got a lot to talk about, to be fair. So yeah, we're going to speak about more psychology aspects that come with trading, which not many people speak about. Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing else to say. I mean, obviously, if you want to join our mentorship, I'll say it here, quick little plug. If you want to join our mentorship, obviously visit our website. We also have a monthly option and we have our bootcamp option. Now, I don't know when this will be posted, but it'll probably be tonight. So today's Monday, the 15th of March. We do have a bootcamp on the 20th and 21st of March. So if you want to join, visit our website where you get taught live our specific strategy. But yeah, I mean, for now, I hope you guys take care and trade safe.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Take care.